You're listening to the ASQ Podcast for a transformational approach to life and leadership, blending soul wisdom with modern insight to create outer impact.
Mr. Larry Easto, how are you today? We've been looking so forward to this conversation with you. How you been?
It's been awesome. It's been an incredible week, and even though it's warm, it's been just an unbelievable week. So, and it's getting better on a Friday. So, what's not to love about that?
Absolutely, absolutely. When you say it's warm, where are you located?
I'm in Toronto, Canada, and we've had an incredibly hot summer. Contrary to popular belief, Canada is not cold all year round. Over the past 5 weeks, I guess, since beginning of July, we've had 5 heat warnings. And heat warnings is when it gets up into the high 80s and low 90s, and humidity, and we have this added bonus of forest fire smoke coming from the west. So Toronto is a great city, but past few weeks, it hasn't been all that fantastic. Fortunately, I live on the side of a ravine, so I don't really feel the heat. So it's good. It's all good.
No, yeah. Toronto is one of those beautiful cities. We had the pleasure of being there last year, and it's so natural and so vibrant. One of the favorite cities that I've been to. So I'm glad to have a Toronto native here.
It's a great city.
Awesome. And I'm a baseball fan. I'm a Yankee fan, and the Blue Jays are, destroying us. And
it's our turn. It's your turn.
And I bring that up because one of the customary questions that we ask in our interview, or the customary question that we ask whenever we talk to someone, is the question, where were you pitched? So the universe puts us at a place in a certain time. So talk to us about where were you pitched. Tell us about your infancy, your family, your culture, and how that came about.
It sounds, I'm going to sound like maybe a baseball game that's gone into overtime, because I think I've been pitched so many places for reasons I really don't understand. Okay, let's start at the beginning. I was born in a Brantford, Ontario, a small working town. Most of the people there worked in factories. My family all worked in families, and my friends' families all worked in families. So that was the norm, and that's what I grew up with. I never really thought about jobs. I was just enjoying, being a kid and playing baseball and playing football and hockey and all that stuff. Never really thought about the future. I guess the first time I was pitched that I really had to think about it was when things weren't really working for me the way I wanted. I didn't know what I wanted, but I was not happy with what was going on. When I decided I was going to university, my mother thought that was great because it meant that I would get a better job, get a really good job. And to her, a good job was a job in the factory office, not on the factory floor. And so, kind of had to process that a little bit, but wound up leaving home. The next big pitch was at university. Loved university. Learned all sorts of great things. And the big pitch there was in third year. One of the faculty members says, "So Larry, what are you doing next year?" And I said, "I don't know." So it'd be a long, crazy conversation. It wasn't until I think I did my first book that I thought, wow, this is what it's all about. This is why I'm here. But it was, I was like 50 years old. I'd been to university. I trained and qualified as a lawyer. I practiced law. I enjoyed dealing with the people, enjoyed the intellectual challenge of practicing law, but it wasn't really fulfilling. And when I did my first book, it was, wow, that's amazing. And my first book was about 30 years ago now, and it was How to Succeed in Your Home Business. At the time, large organizations were flattening. So there were a lot of really talented people not working. Many of them were thinking of starting home businesses, but they didn't have a clue as to how to run a business. So since my law practice was basically small business focused, I just drew on my experience in helping people start small business. Not the legal issues. because they vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. But
Correct.
but the strategic and mental and personal kinds of issues,
Mhm.
and that was probably the best pitch I've ever had. And that's when I realized that I think my gifts are twofold. One is learning new things. I learn things really, really quickly. And
Mhm.
secondly, translating new lessons into lessons for other people to learn. So I love learning and I love I don't want to say teaching. I love helping people learn. So
Mhm.
those are the two things that came from what I consider the good pitch of my first book.
Your first book. It's interesting that you said that part of you which went to university, right? The culture that you came up with was, a good job is being in being in the office of the factory. But now you went to college, you went to the university, you created a career that was somewhat set for you, right? Because most of us go to school either want to be lawyers, doctors, or a profession that has been standardized in the society. What was the calling in you at that time? That internal thing that said, "Wow, I'm gonna write a book," right? Because most people want to write a book, right? And it's such a challenging thing because it is so personal,
Yeah.
even if it's something in which you're teaching. Tell us about that transition, right? From I'm good at what I do in my profession. There is a little bit of a void. I'm going to fill it with this. How is that? Because most people
Yeah.
get stuck in there.
It's a good question. I wrote the book. When I left law, I started to do consulting. I left law for a variety of reasons. I was practicing law in a small town, and it was fun. I loved it. All of the joys of a small town, but it came with limitations.
Mm,
A
yeah.
really interesting piece of legal work would come up, and my clients would send it down country to a lawyer that was really good. Well, thanks a lot. But anyway, it was really frustrating. That was really frustrating. So we had to move to Toronto, a big city, moved from a small town to a huge city, did some consulting, and planning has always been something I'm fairly good at. So I decided to help lawyers and professionals with planning, with business planning, that kind of thing. And all of a sudden I'm realizing, wait a minute, I got to learn about marketing. I don't know anything about this
Mhm,
marketing stuff.
mhm,
Because in a small town, you market it by getting to know people, relationship based. And all of a sudden I had to do this crazy business thing called marketing. So I took a weekend program in terms of how to market your services, market your consulting services or some such thing. And during the course of the discussion, the facilitator said, if you really want to succeed as a consultant, you really need a book. And I thought, a book, that could be cool. So, yeah, long story short was I just thought about it and came up with a book, published it myself, and it did really well. But I think that for me was the defining moment because I've always been an avid reader. I've always
okay.
loved to write. And to me, this was always part of another job, part of what I did. As a lawyer, when I was training as a lawyer, I got into trouble with my supervisors because I was revising all the templates and they didn't want that. I was making them read better, not legal.
Mhm,
But I'd always enjoyed reading and I'd always enjoyed writing. And
mhm,
another element of that was that when I was a teenager, I was a camp counselor. So I was helping people learn. I was facilitating, helping kids learn how to swim and do crafts and all that
mhm,
kind of thing. So I think when I wrote the book, all of these elements came together. My learning, my loving to share, my loving to teach, my loving to make a difference. And I think
mhm,
that's where it really crystallized that my main purpose, my purpose on life, I think, is to make a difference. And
mhm,
wherever I've been, when I look back at the different stages in my life, um, I think each and one of them had as a core focus making a difference, making a difference, making a difference. I mean, even some of the really unpleasant jobs I had, there was an element of making a difference there. When I
mhm.
was 3 years old, I wanted to be a garbage man, and everybody thought that was a hoot. This guy wanted to be a garbage man. But now I realize that's making a difference, and so much of what I did was making a difference. I mean, as a lawyer, I certainly cleaned up a lot of garbage, and as a consultant, I cleaned up a lot of garbage. So that theme is there. It's making a
Yeah.
difference.
And where do you think that comes from, right? Because again, we were pre-production, we were talking about our idea, our personal idea, in hearing what we do in the ASQ podcast about the soul, right?
Hmm.
And there's things that are innate within every single one of us.
Right.
You know, I relate to your idea of learning and teaching and sharing and impacting. But if we look broader, where do you think that comes from within you? That yearning, because it's not with everybody.
Oh, no, no.
No, it's not with everyone. Where do
Yeah.
you think that comes from?
Oh, there's no question whatsoever. It's my soul. It's my soul talking. And I'm not, at this stage of my life, I'm not embarrassed to say that it's God's work.
Okay.
It's not, it's my choice. It's my choice to say yes, but I
Mhm,
didn't choose what I got. At one stage in my life, and this is getting very personal, but at one stage in my life, I was in hospital. I was on vacation. I came back. I had this little thing called typhoid fever. Typhoid fever is not a good thing to have.
no, no, not at
And,
all.
and I spent, I don't know, a couple of months in hospital, but there was
Oh,
a
wow.
defining moment that I had a near death experience,
Mm,
and I remembered seeing my body rise from the table, and there were medical people around the table, and my family was in the room, and remember rising from the table and pausing, and then a deep voice said, "It's not your turn, Larry. It's okay. It's not your time."
oh,
So
oh,
in retrospect, I think that was a defining moment for me without realizing it, that was, when I really got my purpose internalized. It took me a long time to A, recognize it, and
mhm,
B, be confident enough to tell the story, be confident enough to say where it came from.
mhm,
So that was, I think that was a defining moment, and everything else, I'm quite prepared to say that everything before and after
mhm.
was impacted by that near death experience.
Yeah. What would you say to someone, again, being a lawyer is something that is very logical. It's brain driven, right? And when you come across a situation like this, that there's no true data to define that. There's no books that you could reference to, like looking for this case or that
Yeah,
case.
yeah.
And there's something that is an experience that is uniquely yours. What would you say to someone that comes from that mentality and experiences something like this? What would you say to them in which they could really follow it
Okay.
and believe it and live from there like you did?
I I had those kinds of situations when I was practicing law. Um, Again, at the time, I didn't realize what I was doing, but now I realize what I was. I would say, what does it feel like? What feels best to you?
Hmm.
What is the ideal outcome, and how does that feel to you? And 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 so invariably, they would take the one that felt best.
Hmm.
And more often than not, things worked out. Well, now I realize that what I was doing was tapping into the intuition, tapping into our inner, the wisdom we get from our body that tend to ignore it. I know that's really woo woo, but it works. And I realize now so many situations when in all of my stages, whether I was practicing law or consultant or a coach or whatever, invariably, very often there would be an insolvable problem that logically there is no easy answer. And in those
Yeah.
situations, I would go the feeling route. I would,
Mm,
do the what is the ultimate outcome for you? What is the best possible outcome for you? Forgetting about what we've talked about, forgetting about
mhm,
all these craziness going on. What is the ideal outcome for you?
mhm.
And have them visualize that and say, how does that feel? And then once that's clear, say, what do we have to do to get there?
Yeah. It's interesting where these conversations. The more I do this podcast, where these conversations take us, right? Because again, what you mentioned to me is something that is very practical, right?
Mhm.
And like you said, most people think of this as woo woo.
Yeah.
But from your experience, when you work from that intuition with your clients as a lawyer and then your clients as a consultant, what are some of the results that you have seen as you compare again if you just go in the logical direction?
Oh, personally, it's just out of sight, just absolutely out of sight. Past, gosh, I guess about, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years ago, um, I learned that I'm a highly sensitive person,
Mhm,
which is, neurodivergency, blah, blah, blah. And at the time, I'm thinking, that's nice, but so what? Yeah. And sometime later, I used to, about that same time, I also learned, had a Myers-Briggs assessment, and I'm really
Mhm,
strong in the intuition. And again, yeah, I mean, I was trained as a lawyer, and I'm
mhm,
thinking, that's nice, but so what? I've got brown eyes, but so what? I mean, what difference does
yeah,
this make to anything? Over the course of the past, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years, I've really started to take this HSP thing seriously, and really
okay,
started to do some work on it to figure out how it does impact me, how it could impact me. And the same thing with intuition. I'm now consciously looking at some of the things I'm doing and trying to understand them from the perspective of the softer skills, not the rational things, but the softer kinds of skills.
mhm,
And it's been amazing. In the spring, I was invited to speak at a virtual summit on neurodivergency, and it was about
mhm,
HSP. And I'm thinking, well, okay, I'm HSP, but so what? I've never, I've never done. I'm going to put my HSP hat on now and do something. And so I'm thinking, what can I say? So what I did was made a list of quintessential HSP characteristics: thorough, quiet, blah blah blah, well organized, those
mhm,
kinds of things. Made a list of that, and then I went through some of my work to see where those characteristics showed up, and it was just tick 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 tick. So without even realizing it,
mhm,
I had internalized and acted upon the HSP characteristics. So that was when I'm going,
mhm,
okay, okay, I get the picture now. So I think that for me, it was probably um, the increased awareness of who I am and what that means. When did that happen? I don't know when that happened. I honestly don't know when that happened, but I do know that I'm fairly well aligned between my soft skills and my hard skills. My right brain and left brain seem to work fairly well together.
mhm,
And more often than not, when I rely on my intuition, it works out really, really well. When I
really well.
when I when I deny my intuition, it's a disaster.
Oh,
So, when I sold my law practice, I wanted to get out of the practice, and I wanted to get out of the small town. I wanted it so bad that I denied what my intuition was saying. My intuition was telling me, "Don't sell your practice to this guy." My head is saying, "Oh,
mm,
fine, he'll take care of the practice. He'll blah blah." It was a disaster,
mm,
but you know, a learning lesson, rich learning lesson. So since
yeah,
then, I've continued to learn more about it and totally trust my intuition. I was to a few years ago, I was going on a bike ride. There were a group of people who do all day bike rides. This was not where I am now. It wasn't at this stage and age of my life, but there was a bike ride, and I had a dream about me crashing into I was on a bike and I was crashing into a log,
mm,
and I woke up in the morning and thought, I can't go. I can't go on that
mm.
ride. So I called the organizer and said, I'm not going to tell you why, but I just can't go. And he said, okay, sorry, we'll do it next time. On that ride, the person who normally rides behind me crashed into a tree
Oh, wow.
and hurt himself pretty seriously.
Oh,
So I'm going, whoa, thank you.
mhm,
But maybe it was a coincidence. Who
yeah,
knows? I don't care. I'm sorry that the other man got hurt,
yeah,
but I'm also pleased that I had the respect of my intuition to listen to what it was telling me.
yeah. Now, how do you carry this or into business, right? Because again, um, most people, and you said you went in your first book was about how to start your small business from home. But how do you teach or share using this part in business? Because most people think that they don't go
Yeah,
together, but obviously, based on your experience
yeah.
with selling your practice, it kind of does go together.
It's taken me a long time to get there.
Mhm,
A number of years ago, I I was once again struggling with marketing. Do you see a pattern here? And I was struggling with marketing, and I took a webinar, did a webinar to learn how to do copywriting.
uh-huh.
Because I give me a 20,000 word project, a piece of cake, but
Yeah.
500 word copywriting project, I just can't handle. So anyway, I took this copywriting course with two guys who've been phenomenally successful. Between the two of them, they've done millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of business. And they're just going on and on and on about you do what I do, and you'll succeed. You do what I do, and but you don't even think of changing until you're successful. I'm thinking this is awful, and just on and on and on. And I was really, really frustrated with this. I think it cost me $50 or something. But the emotion in listening to these two guys yell at me, telling me what I should be doing, what I should be doing, what I should be doing.
Mm.
And it was just I had to go for a walk to calm down after it was over. It just upset me so much. And I found myself thinking, this is crazy. I mean, why? And I'm thinking about my experience in marketing. I'm thinking back to life in a small town, thinking I never had to market. People, I got to know people and they came to me and we became clients, we became friends, everything worked out. Thinking, why can't we do that? And then I'm
Yeah.
going, ding, 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 ding. Business is about relationships, regardless of product or
Mm.
service. It's about relationships.
Pleasure.
And
Mhm.
holy cow, the best clients are also good friends. So why don't we put all this marketing BS aside
Mhm.
and take a look at authenticity? Why don't we, instead of trying to follow somebody else's formula, why don't we just do what we do to make friends? Why don't we
Mm.
just be our authentic selves
Mm.
instead of being somebody else? And
Mhm.
when you make friends, you don't lie to them, you don't you don't yell at them, you don't push them, you don't pitch to them. You
Yep.
open up and you get to know them. They want to get to know you. So that I came up with the authentic idea of authentic marketing, which is
Mm.
basically attract clients as easily and effectively as you make friends. And from there on, it's the same kind of things. If you have something that will help a friend, you'd be more than happy to tell a friend about it.
Yeah.
And if it turns out that you have a service that can help a friend, they'll be more than happy to buy it
Mhm.
without selling, without pitching, without bullshit. Sorry, without
No, you're fine. You're fine.
oh, I can do that more often, but
No, hey, listen, go for it.
but it comes
Go
to
for it.
to me, it comes back to authenticity.
Yep.
That instead of trying to be somebody else, if only we identify what our strengths are and build on them, it will work out. Now, okay, you may not make as much money as somebody else. Well, you're maybe in a different market, or maybe a different product, or maybe you can. Maybe you're undervaluing your services. I don't know. But it's a case of really being authentic to yourself. And so that's the bandwagon I've been on the past probably 5, 6 years. And it feels so
Mhm.
good. It feels so good. And again, I realized way back when I was practicing law, the first, I worked for two law firms before I started my own practice. And, when you start a new business, you'll take any customers that come. Anybody that's prepared to pay, you'll take them. And I resisted that, but a couple of times I took people that I wish I hadn't. But then I started to realize if I don't like somebody, I can't do a good job for them. So I
Correct.
used the likability thing. And if somebody came in and wanted me to to help them with a project, and I didn't like them, I couldn't go there. I just couldn't go there. It's really interesting. I had a million years ago, I had a lady come in, and it just when she came to the office, there was this chill of negative toxic air. And I knew I didn't want to deal with her, but I couldn't say no before I'd even chatted with her. So
Mhm.
we talked, and she was a piece of work. She was just really nasty, and I did not want to deal with her at all. So as I'm talking with her, I'm thinking, who can I send her to? I mean, I thought we got to do something. So who can I send her to? So I sent her to a lawyer I disliked as much as I disliked her. And they got along so well. They just got along so well. Got along so
Mhm.
well that and my main area was corporate, commercial, small business, and
Mhm.
he was litigation, other things. But he had a client come in that he didn't like. He sent them to me. And I loved them. So he recognized that he couldn't deal with the client, so he sent this really nice family to me. So it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Now, what do you say to people, right? Because again, we live. You mentioned the word and the concept of being authentic, right? Being authentic, being yourself, building friendships as a way to building your business. And in our society, in our modern culture, people will scoff at those type of
Yeah.
things. Um, what would you say to people from a business standpoint, from a practical standpoint? about the benefits of working from that point of view, right? Because we want the money, we want the success, we want those things, but we give things as a result of that. We sacrifice our inner world that we are. What would you say to that?
Well, and I've had a similar conversation with a couple of coaches. It's a case of, once your client's gone, you're still there. You are still there, and if your values have been damaged, if you as a person have had your values compromised or damaged, it's either going to grind away at you, or it's going to compromise you. So if you don't want that constant niggling of, oh, I've done something wrong, I hope nobody finds out about that. My father used to tell us not to tell lies if you didn't have to remember stories. You just had to remember the truth. And the same thing here. When you pull a Tom Swifty on somebody, that's always going to be with you. When you do something you ought not, that was against your values, against your judgment, and all those kinds of things, it's always going to be there, and it's always going to be. It's like picking at a scab. It's always going to be happening. And the flip side is, when you are your true authentic self and it doesn't work out, it's okay. Nothing is perfect. We don't live in a perfect world. We make mistakes. What can we learn from it? In case of this nasty lady, what I can learn from it is maybe just shut up a bit, do what I can to help her, which I could. I referred her to a lawyer that was compatible, and it was a win-win-win scenario. So maybe just back off and be a little more mindful and less judgmental. But so often we get so eager to help that the mouth starts before the brain is engaged, or it's you're talking about an ideal scenario which has no relevance whatsoever to the present situation.
Mhm.
And so it's taken me a long time to learn to count 10. If it's a really serious issue, I force myself to slow down and say, I need some time.
Yeah.
Take 10 deep breaths. Take 10 deep breaths to do it. Even now, if I have to do an email and it's a little dicey, I'll put off till the next day, not by way of procrastination, but to give my brain a chance to come up with the best solution for it.
Mhm.
So sometimes the best solution is not always the fastest.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need time for the universe to give us the answers, and sometimes sometimes our instinctive actions tend to be more impulsive than grounded in wisdom or information. So there's nothing wrong with taking. Okay, first responders have to act pretty fast. I'm a lousy first responder. When I was articling, I was training as a lawyer. I had a conversation with one of my supervisors about how come all the work we do is patching up problems. How come it's always fixing problems? And he said, well, it's kind of like Humpty Dumpty. When Humpty Dumpty falls, we're the guys that put him back together again. And I said, well, why can't we find him another place to sit? He said, lawyers don't do that. And I said, oh, maybe I'm in the wrong profession. But it's just that kind of thing that certainly there's a time for fast action. And again, I'm not the guy to do. I've got the first aid certificates and I've got the paper qualifications. But if there's a crisis, I'm out of the way. I don't want to get in the way of the people who know what they're doing. If there's nobody else around, I can do it, but I'm default. And so often many people make everything urgent when it really isn't. And I'm not advocating procrastination. I'm just thinking, take a time out and think it through.
And you're right, because most situations in life it will benefit from a pause.
Oh, absolutely.
Before react. You mentioned something in your conversation. You've mentioned it a few times, and it's this idea of self-awareness. I mean, when you talk right now, there's a very sure way in which you speak, a very positive way in which you speak. I'm very aware of who you are, the different aspects of your divergence, right? Tell us a little bit about how a person could develop that awareness as they go through life. I mean, you realize, a lawyer is fixing Humpty Dumpty all the time, but then you found a different way to do this, and then you found these aspects about us. It sounds like a beautiful journey as you did it. How would you advise someone or share with someone to look at life from that
Yeah.
point of view, about constantly learning to discover more aspects of themselves and become more self-aware to arrive somewhat at the point that you are right now?
If I had the answer to that, I've got another bestseller.
Maybe you should start thinking
Well,
about it. It might be a
I'll get
bestseller.
back to you on that. I'll get back to you on that. It seems to me that the best answer to that is probably to take as holistic an approach as possible. And the holistic approach is body, mind, and spirit. And okay, so we know what our brain tells us. It kind of works over time. The brain, our ego, is there to protect us and all that kind of thing.
Mhm,
And there's the body. Well, a lot of people don't really pay attention to the body. They don't pick up on the signals that come there. And then there's a whole huge segment of our population, um, probably worldwide, but certainly in North America, who, because of a bad experience somewhere in the field of religion,
mhm,
swear against the whole field of spirituality and religion and everything. Maybe a Sunday school teacher was nasty to them, or some stupid little incident a million years ago, and they've thrown the baby out with the bathwater.
yes, yes.
And I'm not advocating any particular religion. I'm not advocating any particular faith practice, but just connected with a source greater than ourselves is incredibly powerful. If for no other reason than that it gives us patience, it gives us faith, it allows us to trust the process, trust things to unfold. And so for me, it's the holistic thing. Like if I'm eating crazy, that means there's something wrong in my system. There's something wrong in my life. I'm
Mhm,
drinking too much white wine. It's not because it's a hot day outside. There's something else going on. Or I'm scarfing back too
mhm.
much chocolate. There's something else going on. If
Yep.
I've got a pain in my shoulder, there's something else going on other than, just age. And so it to me, it's really paying attention to the three key elements, and they just align so well. And it's like a tripod, body, mind, and spirit, a tripod. And if you only got two legs, you're not going to be too steady. But if you got that
Yeah,
third leg functioning, it's pretty solid.
it's solid. Yeah. It's been amazing seeing your journey, seeing your quest as to arrive as to where you are. So what are you doing now, right? You found all these different aspects of you. You have discovered this. You have experiences in the professional world and helping people become successful and building their businesses, discovering things about you, having experiences both spiritual but also physical. What are you working on right now? And what is it that you're trying to share and contribute in the here and now?
Good question. Very timely too, because I'm working on my exit plan.
Oh, okay.
It started out about a year ago as my legacy plan, and now it's become my exit plan. Basically, what I'm doing is combining a bunch of my content into a single offer, um, which includes panel discussion, ebooks, coaching, all those kinds of things. Two reasons for that. One is pragmatic, to build a business that can be sold, that somebody
Mhm,
else can build on my content,
mhm,
and I can find something else to occupy my time. And the other one is to leave a legacy, leave leave some benefit to the people that come behind me. A lot of people have helped me throughout life. Some of whom are known, some of whom know they helped me. Others were just people that inspired me along the way.
mhm,
Um, and I want to leave a legacy that allows people to benefit from my experience as well. Um, it's interesting because we're in the final stages, or midway through winding up my an estate. My wife's sister died early in July, and so
mhm,
I'm the most logical person to be the quarterback in cleaning that whole scene up. And
mhm,
part of me is is pleased that I have the resource to do it. So that feels good that I can call on my experiences as a lawyer, planner, blah, blah, blah. The sad part is that she did not enjoy good health. She did not enjoy a happy life.
Mm.
She had serious health problems, and so we have just a couple of days ago we finished the auction of our household goods, and yeah, we made a fair bit of money from auctioning off these household goods, but it was so sad
Yeah.
because the books are going here and something's going over there and something's going over there and something's going over there. Sure, she's got all sorts of tangible things that she can leave to family, but there's nothing to show that she's been on this earth for 75 years. Yeah, and
Okay.
she's had some experiences. She's had some bad ones, but she's had some good ones as well. But there's nothing to pass on to anybody.
Mm.
And that's really sad. And I think a lot of people are wind up in that situation. Now, there's extenuating circumstances, and yeah, I'm not being judgmental, but I'm just using that as an example. When 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 my second call my second call comes, I want to have the satisfaction of saying, yeah, I've lived a good life. I made a difference.
Yeah.
I don't want a tombstone, but if I did, I wanted to say he made a difference.
Made a difference. And what do you attribute that to, right? Because again, most, like you mentioned, most people just go through life um, and don't think about the importance of leaving something behind, carving a path for somebody else to follow, to make our to have a contribution, to make the world better, to make our existence and the experiences the other has better. Um, what was it in you that kind of like came to that point? It's like, this is something that I must do.
I
Was
think
it because of that experience that you had
yeah,
at the hospital?
no.
Was it because of something else?
The easy answer is ego, but I don't think that's it. I
I don't
think
think that's it either.
it's the soul in action again. I don't think I was put on this earth to collect a whole bunch of wisdom to take it, take it with me when I go.
Mhm.
I think the part of my purpose is to carry somebody else's wisdom a couple of steps further, so that people behind me can take it a couple of steps further.
Mhm.
Um, that seems to make the most sense to me. Seems to feel right because certainly, I'm creative and I create a lot of content, but I'm just regurgitating other people's ideas. I'm just putting a
Yeah.
new spin on old ideas. I mean, even the know yourself. Know thyself and to thine own self be true. I mean, that's hundreds and thousands of years old. So I'm just
Mhm.
putting my own spin on some conventional best practices, as it were. So yeah, it is probably a part of the evolution, and it feels so good. When my first book came out, I was working on. I was helping a friend with her book, um, and so I gave her a copy of my book, and she in turn gave my book to her nephew, who at the time was I think he was a clerk in a large organization, and he read my book, and based on my home business book, he decided he wanted to fulfill his career, his dream of being a financial planner. So he,
Mm.
quit his job, got the training, wound up teaching financial planning in a community college. And I haven't seen him in years, but I saw him sometime after that, and he thanked me, and I said, "For what?" And he said, "Well, I read your book and it inspired me to leave my clerical job, take the training and go on." And that's what it's all about. I mean, that's just
Yes.
wow. And that's one of my favorite stories. Is he going to change the world? No, but if he helps one person do what I
Yeah.
did, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. That reminds me of that concept in Hinduism of the web of Indras. I talk a lot about it, the web of gems, right?
Yeah.
So whatever, in every intersection of the net, there's a gem, and
Mhm.
that gem symbolizes us. And whatever we put out, it reflects on everybody
Oh,
else. So
absolutely.
yeah, so we
Absolutely.
never get to see, well, most of the times our actions, positive or
Oh
negatively,
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
we don't get to see all of it. Fortunately, you did get to see that.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and that's a beautiful thing. And one thing, I know, because I do have to correct you on something, because it's not ego, to be part of evolution, which is what you are doing. Being able to share your experiences, giving your own perspective so that other people are
Yeah.
getting impacted by it. That's there's two differences between
Yeah.
egos, right? There's
Yeah.
an
Oh, yeah.
ego
Yeah. Yeah.
this is then it, and an ego this is the Tao.
Yeah.
And I think that what I'm seeing and what I hear from you is an active participation in the evolution of our consciousness, in the
Oh,
evolution of who we are as human
yeah.
beings.
And that's interesting because you know, I've done so many different so many different things in my life, and people say, well, what did you enjoy most? I'm thinking, hmm. Or what are you going to do next? I'm going, I'm not sure. I think maybe I'm going to be a potter because I want to get my hands dirty. I don't know.
No. So, as we come to the conclusion, any final words or any final way in which our audience could connect to you?
Sure.
Where do they follow you? What's next? Where do they find the books?
Okay.
I want to read the book now. So where
Okay.
do we
Sure.
find that?
I'm my only social media is LinkedIn. I haven't been very active over the summer because I've been doing other things, but there's a lot of content on LinkedIn. I check it regularly, and that's a one good point of contact. Second one is my website, larryeasto.com. And what I've done there is try to keep it simple. I've set up the the landing page not as a sales page, not as a squeeze page. It's kind of a decision-making page. If you want this, click here. If you want this, click here. If you want this, click here. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate the time people take in listening to our conversation. So I've got 2 free books on my website as thank you gifts.
Awesome.
One is 26 ways for service professionals to get new business. That's a free download. Don't need an email address. Just click the button and download it. 26 ways are from A to Z, by the way, A to Z. And I just thought it was a fun book to write. That's on Amazon, but it's better to get it free from my website. And the other one's a book that I did during the pandemic. I wrote a book called New Beginnings and New Opportunities. And it was intended to help service professionals survive the pandemic and thrive once it was over. Well, that crazy work keeps reinventing itself, keeps coming back and keeps coming back and keeps coming back. And that's available free on the website as well. So just click on the New Beginnings, New Opportunities link or whatever is down at the bottom and get that free book. But it's my way of saying thank you for the time and attention of the people who are watching this.
Thank you for listening to the ASQ Podcast. Remember to lead your life, shape your culture, begin within. Subscribe now and join the movement.